everyone, and we are live and in the doghouse. I want to give a quick shout out to Pro Wrestling Tees. They make my merch. Go there, look up Referee T-Bone Jones. Feel free to buy some merch. And please check out the beautiful belts behind me. Go to CapGo Championship Belts on Facebook. Abdul will hook you up right. And also, don't forget to go to GWB Hot Sauce.com and get all their great hot sauce brands that they have and flavors. Now we're gonna pop up our guests right now. We have the pro wrestler Kalúa. How you doing, sir?
I'm just doing great. You're the legendary. You can take
You
that.
are. You're 40 years in the business, man. You wrestled the Who's Who and been in the ring with the Who's Who of Pro Wrestling Hall of Famers. So you got to consider yourself up there with them. To be in the ring with that kind of caliber of superstars that you've been in the ring with over the years, you're a legend, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, there's some guys that I forgot that I wrestled. Like, wow, like I did wrestle him. I did wrestle like superstar Billy Graham. I wrestled Big Boss Man. I wrestled Edge. I mean, from all different eras. I wrestled some of these guys now, where I wrestled their dads.
Oh my.
So it's and in some cases I think I wrestled their sons. So I just there's no expiration date on King Kalúa.
Absolutely.
Although the milk's starting to taste a little funny.
I love it, sir. I love it. We're going to get right into the questions. When did you first become a professional wrestler?
Well, I actually started training in 1982. My first match was a cancellation. And so I actually didn't have my first match till I think it was May of 1983. So I'm actually coming up on an anniversary right now. If I'm not too good at math, but it's over 40 years. So it's been a long, strange trip for sure.
Absolutely. I bet. I've only been doing it since 2013 off and on. And I'll tell you, it's a trip. Some of the people you meet, it's a trip. Who inspired you to become a professional wrestler? Who inspired you?
Well, it's I was always an athlete. I was a high school football player. I was a college hockey player. And then, when I graduated, I'm like, okay, so what's next? And, really, I started getting more serious into lifting, actually, probably when I was in college. And, I thought, well, I don't have the size for it. But then, by the time I was started pursuing it, I was about 235, 240 pounds. And I was talking with a guy who at my gym happened to be a sports agent, and he mentioned, well, why don't you get into professional wrestling? So I used to goof around at the gym with with one of my buddies and everything, and sort of he was a little guy, so just to pick him up and not toss him, but just throw him around a little bit. And so that got me going to try and pursue it. So the guys that I grew up watching and who I really liked were people like Jesse Ventura, Don Morocco. He was my absolute favorite. I just loved everything about him, from his moves, from his interviews, from the way he carried himself. I had a chance to have dinner with him on my birthday. I forget when it was, but I was out in Hawaii with my friends, and he was able to stop by the restaurant out near where he lives, and had a few drinks with him. But he was the guy that I think most of all, as far as trying to emulate at least the style, it was him. Even though I'm nowhere near as big as he was. I mean, this guy, he was a monster. He was a monster.
Wow.
But yeah, that's how it all started.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I love it, man. I love it. I remember watching Morocco in the 80s, and I had his LJN as a kid, his LJN figure, the big rubber guy.
Mm-hmm.
I had one of those as a kid.
He was. I guess I just
Right.
I was on a couple tours with him, or I actually got a chance to work with him. I think once or twice as well. But man, just a big guy. But really athletic, and he was doing things that was a little bit ahead of his time. With I seen him go off the top rope. I see him do like the tombstone the tombstone pile driver, neck breaker, whatever it is.
Yeah, I remember.
So
That.
yeah, he's cutting edge. He was cutting edge.
Absolutely. During your career, who has been your toughest opponent?
Well, I guess the one that the toughest, the one that I've worked with the most would be Tom Brandy, Patriot, Johnny Gunn, Mr. Chippendale, all throughout the years. I couldn't tell you. I know you had a question from one of the one of the listeners about how many times I wrestled him. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. It was probably in the hundreds, I'm sure. But he's been my favorite person to wrestle with. I mean, back over the years, I wrestled a lot with a guy named Larry Winters. He was actually around longer than I have been. He's since passed away, but I found myself working with him a lot. And the guy who was Rocco Rock from Public Enemy, Ted Petty, and he used to work as a Cheetah Kid. I used to work with him a lot, so he was another guy that I used to work with. So those guys are probably the ones that I've worked with the most frequently. Now, I wrestle for so many different organizations that it's hard for me to pick any one person out right now.
Definitely understand. Where did you train out of, may I ask?
Well, there was when I was looking into starting wrestling, there's only two schools that I had to pick from. One was closer to where I lived, and it was by a guy by the name of his wrestling name was the Concrete Cowboy. Now he wrestled just some local stuff. I don't think he ever did any WWF stuff, but I think he worked a couple of like indie shows. And he opened up a school, and it was only about half hour from my house. Now, the other one I was looking at was Larry Sharp's school, Monster Factory, before it was called the Monster Factory. And the person who I would have been probably training with at that time was Bam Bam Bigelow, because he was a student, and that was like it was like more of a commitment, because I would have to drive all the way over to Jersey from where I lived outside of Philadelphia. And it was more money, and he wanted to sign a contract, and he would have been getting a piece, where this other guy, it was cheaper. He had, I mean, obviously he didn't have the same kind of contacts that Larry had, but still enough to get myself going in the business. It's not like it is today, where there's a whole ton of schools out there. Back in the day, there were very few of them, so there was very few wrestlers. So it was easier to get work, especially if you had a good look and you were good. And then people would hear about you. Then all of a sudden, I'd get calls. This is before the internet, and that's how it happened. It just started picking up from there. And I used to wrestle all up and down the East Coast.
Wow. And you've had a crazy career. You've literally been everywhere and wrestled just about everybody.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like you hear these guys that they call 30 milers. They don't wrestle more than 30 miles outside of their hometown. They just work for one promotion or two promotions. I was working I would be. I couldn't tell you how many different promotions I would have worked for in a given year back, back in the '80s. But I would be going up to New England. I would be going down to Virginia, to Maryland. I'd go out to Western Pennsylvania. Lot of New Jersey, North Jersey. I used to go. I used to be up the Turnpike almost every weekend. Different groups. Some places that are pretty tough, like Jersey City or Newark, where you're lucky if your cars were there when you were done.
Oh, wow.
Remember going into the ring and feeling something sharp hitting me. So yeah, it was. Some of these places were pretty hairy.
Wow. Wow. What was it like being Doink the Clown from 95 to 97 during your run at Century Wrestling Alliance and the NWA New Jersey?
Well, yeah, they Tom Brandy had the brilliant idea of getting the Doink costume made, and so he said, "Yeah, why don't you do it?" So I didn't like doing it at all, because it's just not my character. But it was good because I got booked, and then so a lot of times I would say, "Well, listen, I'm going to work twice. I want to work once as myself and once as the clown." And I'd always have to do the clown first because the paint would come off, the makeup would come off, and then I had to come back as Kalúa. But I really wasn't a big fan of it. And then all of a sudden, these other counterfeit doinks came along. So I like to say that I was the first counterfeit doink.
Oh,
but,
man.
but it wasn't at the top of my favorite things to do. But a booking is a booking,
Absolutely.
and that's
Absolutely.
the way it works.
First counterfeit Doink. He admitted that on my show.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Well, if people, and I had some people ask me, "Do you still do Doink?" I said, "No." I said, "We don't have. I don't have the outfit. I don't have the desire." I said, "I'll stay home."
I don't blame you. I don't. What advice do you have for the younger generation of wrestlers that are coming up nowadays?
Don't.
I love that.
Don't do it. Don't
I
do it.
love that
But you know
answer.
what? Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to take the wind out of anybody's sails. But it's just so hard nowadays because there's so many schools. Um, but the thing that I always tell people, because I've done a couple of seminars, or even sometimes I'll stop by this one guy's school and just talk to the guys. I said, you got to be different. You have to be different. Now, one of the things that I said, the most important thing is having the look, having the body. A lot of these guys now don't spend the time in the gym. They spend a lot of time in the ring, but not a whole lot of time in the gym. And you have to spend probably 10 times more in the gym than you really need to do in the ring. Because if you have a good muscular build, you're going to stick out nowadays, because I see a lot of guys that just don't have that kind of look. And I think that's why I still get booked, because I still look like I could really kick your ass if I needed to, right?
And I'm sure you
Um,
probably could kick him if you needed. You're a big
and
dude.
yeah, and the thing is, and I just lost a lot of weight, but I still maintain that same kind of look. And then on top of that, I was always a big person on the gear, because what's important to me, the most important part of the match for me is is the minute I walk out of that of the of through the curtain, and that minute that I'm the minute
We cut
2
out.
minutes or whatever 5 minutes before I actually start wrestling, I think is really for me the most important, because I want to get people riled up because I'm a villain, so I need to get people riled up. And sometimes they want to cheer me only because they see the fancy outfits and they think, oh, this guy's oh, this guy looks cool. But no, that's not that I want. It's not what I want you to do. But when I come out with that all of a sudden it just immediately gets people's attention. Then once I have their attention, I can turn them into not liking me. And so then that just carries through the mat. So at that point, that's how I approach wrestling. That's what I would tell these younger guys. And it's not all about the moves. We hear a lot about the spot monkeys who want to do this, that, and other thing. But when every match looks the same, it's sort of like, okay, well, now what? And then when you throw the hardcore stuff in there, that's like, okay, can you top this? And I'm like, no, I don't want to put myself at risk. You don't last 40 years in the ring by getting hit with which I mean, I've taken chair shots, of course, but barbed wire and and some of the crazy bumps that you're going to land on the concrete from 8 feet up in the air. Nah, well, leave that to somebody else.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree with you because I've been a part of those hardcore shows and stuff, and it's like, what are we doing next week?
Yeah, it's like and some of the stuff that's being done, with the fluorescent light tubes, it's like, okay, that broken glass stuff at fire. I mean, there is a market for that. So I'm not going to badmouth anybody that does it.
No,
It's
by
just
no means.
it's just not for me.
Yeah.
Mine is old school, and the old school stuff is unique. I might be the only old school, really old school stuff that people might see on a show. And so that's why I'm still getting booked. To be honest with you.
I love it though. I do. I love it. The old school rules, man, because the old school is more about the psychology of it than more about uh performance. It wasn't so much about the performance, it was more about the wrestling and the action happening in the ring. But you also knew how to save your body. You didn't have to do the thumbtacks and all the hardcore stuff. And that's what made you last longer, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, because if I had to do that kind of stuff, first of all, I mean, I think I get tired of it. But second of all, you're going to get some potentially lasting injuries. So the two worst injuries I've had. One was a torn rotator cuff, and I was out for 6 months. And recently, I tore a quad tendon, but it wasn't a complete quad tendon tear. So I was back wrestling 2 weeks later, but it's still sort of nagging. But yeah, I mean, I don't miss dates. I don't miss time. Uh, I could tell you well, I don't miss shows. The one I did miss just most recently, unfortunately, I think it was I don't know if it was in February, but I came back from a cruise and I was supposed to wrestle that Sunday. Ended up getting COVID.
Oh my.
And I was like, my wife made me go to the doctors and get but she says, man, if you have COVID, you don't want to give it to anybody else. And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. So I went and I tested positive and I had to cancel. And it was a good payday and it was going to be a good show. And I've also been smart, and also the fact that I take care of my body.
Here on Big Fan.
Well, that's good. I probably had. Well, I'm glad we
then
got some. I'm glad I got a fan.
T-Bone the man. Good day to you, sir. What's up, Solly? Sarah Jones said, for you, what has been the most memorable match of your career?
We I was on tour in Ecuador, South America. I forget who it was, but it was a big group of Dominic DeNucci's guys, and I was in the main event. of course, with Tom Brandy, and we had this show, and I think there was I think the attendance was like maybe 4,500 people, and I think we did 45 minutes. 45 minutes, and they were up and down. And the funny thing about it is, like, that was like in the 80s, and back then I don't know if they ever had professional wrestling in that town. And so what happened was everybody was just like, when we saw the other matches, everybody was just cheering. You know, they didn't understand the concept of a good guy and the bad guy. And so I started doing stuff that would let them know that I was a bad guy. And the thing is, pictures that I did, you know, like this prancing around, and all of a sudden they don't boo. In South America, they whistle. And so all of a sudden people start whistling, and I'm like, okay, I got them now. So that was one of the more memorable ones. I also did another overseas show. I wrestled Shane Douglas. He's probably wrestled maybe for 2 or 3 years at that time. And we wrestled in Rome, where they had the Olympics. The first night, I wrestled Tom, and they had maybe about 10,000 people. Second night, they had 14,000. And it was crazy. They were throwing coins like lira. After the match, I went back out to the ring, and I started picking up all the coins. So it was kind of cool. But it was those were the one in Ecuador. Those the one that really sticks out. I also had another one in Ecuador. We were at a bullfighting stadium, around 7,500 people, and they started throwing oranges at me, which were dangerous.
Yeah.
if you ever get hit with an orange, they hurt.
It's like a wet softball, probably.
Yeah, exactly. And they were being thrown from, like, 50 yards away or 20 or 30 yards away. So but there's the ones that I think that stick out in my mind, and that's like what, 40 years ago, 35 years ago.
Wow.
Well, longer than that. Yeah, that's got to be. They have been late 38 years ago.
Yeah, you said you trained in 82. That's 2 years before I was even born.
Well, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I hear
I'm
that all the
sorry. I'm
time.
sorry. I was like, wow,
I
that blew my mind. We have a couple more. Solly for real said, hit that like button for T-Bone and King Kalúa. And then he said, which wrestler did you not like to work with during your awesome career?
There were a few guys that I preferred not to wrestle with. There was a guy. I don't think he's around anymore. He was like a bodybuilder type, and this guy he looked great, but it was just his movement in the ring was just not fluid. It was. I told people it was like pushing a shopping cart with a broken wheel. But he wasn't one of my favorites. But there was somebody who I'm like, oh geez, this guy, he's going to be hard to work with. I'm like, you know what? Or if I was with a guy who was really inexperienced, I'm always trying to get I'm always trying to have the best match on the card, or at least the most memorable match. It may not be the best artistically or technically, but I want people to remember me. So, I'm going to work with whoever I'm out there. So there's no one I could say really like, oh no, I got to wrestle him. But there's some I prefer other than wrestling Tom Brandy all the time.
Sarah Jones asks, "Is there anything in your that you would have done differently in your career? Is there anything
No,
you wish you?"
no, no, I don't think so. I mean, I would have liked to travel a little bit more, but when once I had kids, both of my kids had some health issues. That wasn't an opportunity that I was able to take. And the thing is, that's what leads you into the bigger organization. So if I was able to go to a territory like the then or even Puerto Rico, I could have gotten probably further along working for one of the bigger organizations. Um, I did work for the AWA for a while, but then they went out of business before I got a chance to get anything off of them because and anything any big push where I could have built a name for myself. So yeah, that's the one thing I wish I could have done. But in the meantime, I still have a successful regular career. Um, Indie wrestling doesn't pay the bills. you know, Never did.
I
I
wish.
mean, back in the day when I was going overseas and doing some stuff and wrestling a lot before they had all these other schools open up, I might have been able to make a decent living at it. But no, that doesn't. It never paid the bills for me. I always had that other. I always had that real career in my back pocket, and so now that's why now this is still fresh for me. I'm still excited about still wrestling, even though I've been doing it for 40 some years. I still get excited doing it.
You still look good doing it, and you're still able to do it at top tier level. I'm impressed by you watching you work, sir. Um, what? Yeah. Sorry. Going on to our next question. Why
Yeah.
didn't you pursue ice hockey?
Well, it was funny. I was a goalie, and I played for Villanova University, which was a club sport, but we were actually would have been like a D2 or a D3 team. Um, there was a team in the a minor league team out in I think Iowa that I was looking at, France or Belgium or something like that, but it just didn't work out. And I think if I had relatives from that country, I could have maybe pulled that off, but it just didn't work out. And I have not played hockey since probably 1983, I think. I don't know if I can still skate.
Wow. Wow. From what I was reading, because like I did some research for the show. What I was reading, you were one hell of a hockey player.
Um, yeah, I was, I was, I was
You're
flamboyant. I
modest.
would
You're
say that.
modest, sir.
I was flamboyant, but I also like got into trouble with the coach. Um, and so I didn't play as much as I should have, and I was mouthy, not mouthy about it, but I we played at the Philadelphia Civic Center, and I wasn't starting, but I was friends with people who made banners, and so my nickname was Chief. So I had a big banner made up and it said "Trade the Chief." Like you don't get traded when you're a college hockey player. So that I guess that was a nice little with that kind of stuff. Yeah, professional wrestling was just a natural progression.
Awesome. Awesome. We have some more fan comments and questions. Can wheel since King said
I got 100 of them.
it. And then he also said, "It's amazing to see top of the cage and doing some completely insane moves these days. One wrong step or fall, and it's your career and possibly life ending." And that's right. That's a very solid statement. Um,
Oh yeah. I see some crazy stuff. I see these guys are doing like these half gainers and spinning around like they're diving off into a swimming pool. But yeah, one wrong, you land on your head, and yeah, that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
And no, you get. I'll save that for the young guys. But honestly, like back when I started, I was like, because I was like about 240, 246. And I didn't consider myself big then. I considered myself maybe sort of on the average size. Now, 240 is huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Absolutely. I
so
would
these
say the same
so
thing.
these guys are doing all this spinning and off the top rope stuff for maybe 180, 170 pounds. So you can do that. But when you're 240, 280 pounds, it's that's not your game.
No, no, by no means. And I like life too much for that sudden stop at the end from the heights. I like life too much.
Yeah.
That ain't no,
It's bad enough taking a backdrop or a hip toss. I don't want to take anything off the top rope.
yeah.
But I'm just going to be different. That's my
I love
hopefully key for sticking around.
I love the old school mentality. That's what I like about the USW stuff that we just did not too long ago, a couple weeks
Hmm.
ago. I love the old school stuff and style. I don't want to stray away from that too much. That's why I don't work for too many wrestling companies. There's too much wild stuff going on at some of these places. Um, Going on to the next question. What was it like tag teaming in the 80s with Mick Foley as the South Sea Islanders?
Yeah, that was so there was a promoter by the name of Mark Tendler who was in Long Island, and he actually got me some good gigs. He got me the show in Ecuador, the one in Rome. He actually I did a little wrestling sort of like little gimmick thing for General Foods at the Doral Country Club in Miami Beach with Bob Backlund
Oh,
and another local guy. So this guy was good. He was good, but he he would sometimes book people as like he booked me once as Mike Steamboat Kalúa. I'm like, okay, really came around. I was like one of the few like Asian wrestlers. So Asian wrestlers. Oh, that's that was a big that was a good draw, and I was Mike Steamboat Kalúa, and he also booked me with Mick Foley. And so this is when the Islanders were around. And so I have one picture because, Mick is good technically. I know he did all the crazy stuff, but he was also a good technical wrestler too. But yeah, we got booked and we did some stuff. And he actually mentioned it at like an iPhone back then where I could take pictures because I mean, I guess I have some pictures and I have one with me and him posing in the ring. But this over the years, it would have been so cool to have pictures with some of these guys. And unfortunately, you just didn't. People, you had Polaroids, but you didn't have.
yeah.
You didn't have cameras. Now everybody has a camera. I take pictures every match because that's what I'm gonna sit back and look at when I get old
Absolutely. Absolutely. I try to
or older.
video as I can. I try to keep video of everything as much as I can. Pictures. I need to take more
Yeah.
pictures. I don't take enough.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, like I said, I'll go through my iPhone has thousands of pictures, and a lot of them are the same poses that I do, but different outfits, and at different times. I just wish I had more action shots from the ring, but it's hard to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I know people take them, but I never end up coming in possession of them. So it is what it is.
I go through Facebook, and as soon as I see somebody posted one with me in it, I'll click on it, I'll hit the tag, and I'll tag myself in it.
Oh yeah. Just keep it.
Yeah, it
But
automatically
someday go sit back
page.
and say, wow, yeah, I used to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. We have some other questions here. Of all the places you've traveled in your career, what has been your favorite place to be in?
Hmm. Well, I think that the most fun I had was in Aruba. We had a tour down in Aruba, and that was great. I mean, going to some of the other countries, I've been in Venezuela and Ecuador and in Italy, but that was a resort, and we just had a great time. It was a great bunch of guys and a lot of heavy duty talent on that as well. Now they had me teamed up with SD Jones. Now SD Jones was from the Caribbean, so he was like that was a big thing. But we had Bob Orton, Morocco was on that, one of those.
You're naming my
I did a
LJN
couple of tours.
collection as a kid. Sorry to interrupt, but you're naming my LJN collection as a kid. I had all those guys.
Well, well, yeah, like I said, that's that. I mean, I think it was um, Poor Orndorff was on one of those tours. But yeah, that was great. I mean, obviously to go on a resort and good crowds, good food, a lot of drinking. that's
That is awesome.
that's part of it. That's part of it.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. You gotta be a part of it, man. Here's the next question. Did Mick Foley do any of the crazy stuff back then?
So we talk about crazy stuff.
She
We were
didn't
in Italy.
specify. She just said crazy stuff.
Oh well. We were in Italy, and this was the night I wrestled Shane, but we also had a battle royal, and he was already knocked out of the ring, and he was with somebody on the outside of the ring, and there was a table set up, and then there was the metal barriers. I saw him he was going for a pile driver, but the guy backdropped him over from a table over top of the metal barrier onto the floor.
Oh no.
And I was in the middle of the battle royal. I just stopped and looked. I said, "What the hell is he doing?" And I'm like, "Geez," I said, "No." And that was his thing. And I'm like, Jack was a good wrestler. He was a good technical wrestler, but that's how he made his name for himself. But yeah, crazy. I'm like, no, okay, I won't be doing that.
Solly for real said that's the part of wrestling people don't understand when they try to say it's fake. It is dangerous sport 90%, 99% of the time. When a wrestler gets hurt, the big promotions try to keep it a secret.
Well, yeah, it's I don't know why, because it is part of the sport. I mean, uh, my old roommate that I had before I got married and settled down, the people would ask him, "Oh man, it's fake, right?" And he said, "All I know is when he comes home, meaning me, he's got bruises all over him." So, I always get that question. I said, "You can't fake gravity. When you're
No.
falling, you know." I was. This was funny. I was This was about 2 or 3 years ago. I was doing business in Center City, Philadelphia, and I was dressed up in a suit, and I was going to lunch, and I was looking at my iPhone. I hit a curb, and I fell. Right, so I just fell flat on my face, and there's two people come back. "Oh, sir, are you all right? Are you all right?" And I just get up and I start laughing because I'm like, I obviously I know how to fall. I mean, it's instinctual. I mean, I'm protecting my face from hitting the ground. My hands are going out. I'm spreading out. And again, as a wrestler, the first thing you learn is really to displace the impact when you fall. And I get up, I'm laughing. These people are thinking I need a doctor. I'm more like worried about me tearing my suit up. I said, I'm fine. But I'm getting up laughing. They're probably thinking there's something wrong with me. Could be right.
You've been doing it for 40 years. It just comes natural instinct.
Well, sometimes I do worry about the CTE stuff. That's the stuff that that post-concussive problem that people have for people who play football. But when you think about how many times you take a shoulder tackle and hit the ring, or how many times you take a hip toss or a body slam, after 40-some years, I wonder, is there something that might catch up with me when I get older? Now, I'm old enough now where I could just blame that on just normal age, but I just wonder, I do wonder about that.
And isn't it tough to test for that stuff, that CTE stuff? It's really tough to test.
Only if you're dead.
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking. It was
they can only do a diagnosis if you're dead. So I guess I have to donate my brain to science to find out.
Well, I think most wrestlers should, because we can actually learn the long-term damage of concussions in pro wrestling, because there is a pattern of it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I mean, and a lot of guys abuse drugs, and so there's a lot of
wasted that could have been saved.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. The next one is, have you ever had to get physical with a fan that crossed the line?
I'm trying to think. Not really. Because when I was trained, when I broke in, you really didn't want to touch a fan. You don't want to spit on a fan. You want to do anything. I mean, you want to rile them up. But I can honestly say that I never had to really go after a fan. I had some close calls. I had one guy going after me, but the people that were with him held him back, and I didn't see it. My opponent had to tell me, "Hey, some guy almost went after you out there." But oh yeah, there was one. I didn't have to get physical with the fan because he took off. But I was wrestling at in Pennsylvania, the baseball stadium. It was a big Labor Day show, and some union put it on. And so I cut this big promo about, it takes, we don't need unions. It takes 5 people to hammer one nail into a piece of wood. And so they're all round up. So I was wrestling, I was wrestling Virgil.
Oh.
Virgil from Ted DiBiase, but this is when he was. I was wrestling him. I had him in a pinning combination, and all of a sudden, I felt someone grab my foot and pull me off of him. Somebody came off of the infield, out of the stands into the infield, pulled my leg off, and I'm like, oh. That's the one place I asked for a police escort out of the arena. Because I'm like, these people are nuts.
Yeah, that's messed up.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Somebody didn't get the memo. It's a show, guys, but it is physical.
You know what? But you know what? I did my job.
That's exactly right.
Did my job.
You got them riled up to where he came after you. That's your job. Now, you already answered this question, so I'm not even going to ask it. How many times have you wrestled Tom Brady? You've already answered that. Yeah. You don't remember, but it's in the hundreds.
Yeah, probably.
What was it like working for Vern Gagne in the AWA? You said it was short-lived, I know, but did you at least get to meet Vern and talk to Vern Gagne?
Oh yeah. They liked me there. I was like their Johnny Rods. I always had good matches with people, and they had somebody new coming in. They would put me with them, like a new guy that they were pushing. So I wrestled some. That's where I got to really wrestle some of the big names. I wrestled Sergeant Slaughter, Rick Martel, like Greg Gagne, of course. Rick, because I said, yeah, Rick Martel. Oh, geez, there was a wrestled Road Warriors there too. And
Wow.
they actually booked me on a couple of house shows down in Baltimore. So I worked at Baltimore Civic Center against the Freebirds, and then I also worked with Tom. Tom was actually a sub for Marty Jannetty, who got hung up with some traffic. Can he wrestle? I said, yeah, sure. I trained him, and he got to wrestle in front of like 14,000 people with Flair and Rhodes on top. So it was a pretty good deal for him. But yeah, Vern liked me because I'd always throw a few token amateur moves in the match, and so he always put that over on TV because Vern was a technician. The funniest thing I remember about that was I come walking into the locker room and Vern says, "Hey, Mike, I got you with some new guy today. Just watch out for him. Just try to take care of him." And I said, "Yeah, what's his name?" "Oh, it's Scott Hall."
Oh.
It was so he had just started, and I'm like, "Wow, okay." Yeah, he's a big dude back then. He was bigger then than he was when he was Razor, because he was, I guess, probably pretty jacked up at that time. He was big, but yeah, funny.
That's awesome. Was he a nice gentleman?
Yeah, nice guy. I mean, he was young. I was wrestling. By that time, I've already had about 5 years in the business, so
Okay.
I was the veteran. But he was the guy getting the big push, and you can see where he went from there. So, but yeah, Vern liked me. Vern liked me.
Vern had good eye for talent, man. He did. Had very good eye for talent.
Yeah, like I said, but like I said, I was watching, like, because we were on ESPN, and so I was watching one of the matches. In fact, I think it was the one with Martel, and he was like, "Oh, he did this with," and he switched a minute, and he was getting excited about the moves. And I'm like, "All right, good. I got making the boss happy."
Absolutely. It's always a good day when the boss is happy.
Oh yeah, right.
Where can we see King Kalúa next?
Oh geez, I mean, I'm all over the place. I've been at he's doing a lot of stuff with that and putting it on YouTube. Brian's group, I really like working with them. It's a really first class operation. But I think my next show I think is out in Central Pennsylvania. I do some work with this group called Elite, and that's in West Virginia. So I'll be in Short Gap, West Virginia. Got a couple of I'll be working a big show for them in July, and I'm going to be with with Sal Sincere,
Okay.
which is another, and we're working actually with Powers of Pain.
Oh.
With Barbarian and Warlord. So
Yeah.
talk about some names from the past. So, and then I'll be in Florida in August. So, and I got a couple in Jersey. So, yeah, I said that it's you'll never know where I'll pop up.
Absolutely. I've seen flyers with you on them everywhere. Like I've seen you in certain areas, like it just pop up, like certain wrestling company out of nowhere, and there's King Kalúa. Like, yeah.
You never know, and that's where I like it. That's what a wise man he is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He also said I used to bounce at a club in Atlanta, and I can tell you Ric Flair was a total jackass to his male friends when he came in the club. There was always a lot of drama that came with him. That just
Well,
sounds like the nature
well,
boy
I
to
don't
me.
want. Yeah, well, he had a reputation to live up to, but yeah, I missed that. Back in the day, we used to have a little territory up in New England, and we were actually on network TV back then up there, and so we were quasi celebrities up there, but we used to go out. That was always a big part of wrestling, but not like that. But that was part of the real fun of wrestling, was going out afterwards. Sometimes the matches were sort of like, oh, they were incidental. It's like, oh, where are we going after the match?
Yeah. Because, I mean, there wasn't nothing else to do but get back to the hotel, you know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah, of
yeah. I
course.
mean, we had our hot spots up in Maine, and yeah, we knew where to go, and we always had a good time. That how wrestlers are.
Yep, absolutely.
These young kids don't have an opportunity for that because they don't have these back-to-back shows where they're on the road and are staying in a hotel. They don't. They miss it.
Yeah, yeah, because that's when the fun begins.
Yep. Yes, it is. Yes, sir.
um, when will we see you again soon at will we get to see you again soon at USW? Was asked in the comments.
Yeah, I was just talking with Brian yesterday, so I'm trying to see how I can get that in the my schedule. I've actually had a little bit of time off, so I'm ready to. But all of a sudden, June just every weekend. So I'm trying to see what's available. But yeah, I do like working for his organization. I'm hoping that he starts to get some house shows put together too, because I just like his operation. He just runs a real professional show. So I'm impressed by that. So hopefully I'll be back with them sometime real soon.
Awesome. Now my next question. I think I have two more and another comment. Or no, three more. I have three more questions. Dory Funk Jr.
Well, I didn't really train him alongside Dory Funk Jr.
Okay.
He was, and I think with Steve, it was more uh, not like I was in school with him, but he was booked with me a lot when he was younger, and so he got I was like probably the first real established guy he was with, and it's this big heel. And so I really enjoyed working with him, and I think that's where he got to see where a lot of stuff that I do, and also my pace, and like some of the smaller things that they just don't teach you in school. I think he was able to fill out some of his knowledge just by working with me. So he credits me for training him, but it wasn't actually being in a school. It was actually in ring.
In ring, learning on the fly.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
love it. I love it. Old school. Um, Another question from a fan. We love you, King Kalua. You rock. Thank you for the entertainment over the years.
Oh,
That is
you're very welcome, and I do appreciate people making those types of comments. Because I don't know how um, it's you don't get that kind of feedback. You'll get it in the ring by people booing and everything. That's my feedback. If people are not excited at my match, whether I win or lose, it's sort of like, well, okay, I missed the mark. But if people, sometimes I won't start wrestling until I get the fans in where I want them.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
so I'm glad people appreciate that.
Um, we already went over this one off camera, and you already said yeah. Have you ever wrestled at the Nathan Golf Armory? This was from a fan that asked me to ask you this one.
You know what? I may have, like I said, after 40 years, I don't have a recollection of all the places I've been. I mean, if you say it's Clarksburg, yeah, and I remember being in that town, but for what organization and when and where and who I wrestled, that's one thing I do admire about Tom. Tom has a book, probably a couple books, and he has the date of all of his matches and who he wrestled. And I said, I wish I would have done that, because it just would have been interesting to see, like, who I wrestled, where these towns were, But now sometimes I'll be in a town. I'm like, you know what? I think I was at this place before, And but again, there's so many different places I've been. It's like I said, I almost wish I had that, but I couldn't tell you if I've been in that spot or not.
Well, the friend that or the fan that asked you or asked me to ask you that also told me to mention that or bring it up that Mick Foley signed his WCW contract in that building at the
Oh,
Nathan
get out!
Farm.
Geez,
Yeah, that's what
wow.
I didn't know if you worked there or not.
No, I haven't. I haven't seen. I haven't seen Cactus in a long time. But yeah, I used to. He took a. He went on a couple overseas trips with us. Um, he's he's a guy that probably might have it. He wasn't a big lavish spender. Put it that way.
I heard stories he was cheap.
Yeah, yeah. He frugal to say the least, and not a slave to fashion either.
Well, sir, I've kept you for an hour. I think I'm going to let you go. I appreciate you being a good sport and answering all of my great questions and putting up with all the fans here in the comments because I know you play a heel. And
I'm not in that character right now, but once I put everything on, then I'm in that character. But no, I appreciate people's comments and asking questions and showing the interest. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you being a part of the show. And this is episode 30, by the way. This is the big 3-0.
All right, good.
Yes, sir. All right, I'm going to end the show, and then you just hang on, and I'll come back and talk to you for a second, sir.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
See you,
My
everybody.
name's T-Bone, and I'm out. And